Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome, everybody, into the Overreaction to Buffalo Sports Show on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired, alongside my two awesome co-hosts, Jerry Ostrowski, former Buffalo Bill Jerry Ostrowski, and former Buffalo Bill John Fina. You can find Jerry on Twitter at Ostrowski_Big O and John Fina at John Fina. It is so good to have every single one of you. Please do us a favor. Please like, please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this on, whether it be live or in audio version on every podcast platform there is. Please like, please subscribe. But it is so good to have you. Tonight, we're going to talk about our AFC opponents, AFC East opponents, and their schedules. We're going to dig in just a little bit for a couple of minutes. But before we do that, let's welcome the guys. Guys, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, Joe. How are you?
Listen, I was on the boat all day. Today's my 23rd wedding anniversary. Like, the weather, it's summertime in Buffalo, like high 70s, low 80s all week, no rain. Like, let's go. I'm ready.
Wow. Well, I'm doing pretty well, Joe, but I can't stack up against that. That's
Did he say John or Joe? I thought he said Joe. Did I jump in?
Joe.
I said
Joe. I said, what?
I thought he asked how you were doing, and I jumped in on top of you.
You asked us how we were doing, and then you told us how you were doing, and then I'm sitting here feeling very jealous.
Yes, I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man.
Yeah. How are you, John?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm happy to be here with the other two J's.
Yeah, JX3. I've nicely, beautifully, wonderfully nicknamed us JX3. Just so everybody knows. Just so the world knows, we are now known as JX3.
Well, that's better than what I came up, which was the 3 jack wagons. although that was strong in the voting. Close second.
Just want to say a quick welcome to everybody who is joining us live in the comments section. Kevin, Richard Rush, Tracy Fichter, Maggie's in the room. There's Scott Blakely, Daniel Gowris. I'm reading too fast. Thank you to everybody that's joining us live. If you are on Facebook or Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, which Elon actually came out today and said was like, what would you prefer to call it? And now everybody's like, Twitter. It's Twitter. It's not X. But yeah, please jump over into the YouTube comment section. How do we want to get this started? We're going to talk about the Dolphins opponents. We're going to talk about the Jets opponents. We're going to talk about the Patriots opponents. Jerry, do you want to kick us off? How do we want to go?
I'll kick us off. I got the Jets, man. I got the Jets. I wore my as close as I could to Jets green today. So I remembered, my CT kicked in. I could just look at my shirt and remember who I had. But no, the Jets are interesting, man. The Jets last year, obviously, dismal season. Salah survived somehow. Aaron Rodgers out in 17 seconds. Tremendous defense, a defense that beat us week 1 in New York. A just absolutely abysmal offense. But this is a very talented team if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. Obviously, they did some things this offseason to try to help him out. Tyron Smith from the Cowboys, they went ahead and signed him. They also signed Joe Simpson, the guard from the Ravens, and they took Alu Fashanu, the 6'7", 315-pound offensive tackle from Penn State. So they did shore up their offensive line to try to keep Rodgers upright for more than 17 seconds. But the thing that stuck out to me about this Jets schedule is, if you look at it, 6 primetime games. They have maxed out on primetime games even before they flex any games. 2 Thursday night, a Thursday night game against New England in week 3, and also a Thursday night game in week 9 versus Houston. They open up on Monday Night Football out in San Francisco. Salah goes home. He was the coordinator there from 2017 to 2019. And then they have 2 Sunday night games. They play at home against Indianapolis on Sunday night. They also play at Pittsburgh with a chance to play Russell Wilson again, because if you've noticed, the Jets opponent they play every year, and usually not at home, is the Broncos. Like, we're always playing the Chiefs away. They always seem to play the Broncos away. And now they're going to go ahead and get them at home this season. But interesting schedule. Kind of very similar a little bit to us in the fact that they end the season with 2 AFC East opponents. They're at Buffalo in week 17. They're at home against the Dolphins, the last game of the season, week 18. Their bye week is late as well. Their bye week is week 12. They get rid of New England by week 8. So yeah, I mean, this is a team that their schedule is to me, their schedule is pretty tough. I mean, it kind of reminds me of ours last year. They do go to London, so they have a London game in Tottenham Hotspur against Minnesota, a team that Aaron Rodgers knows very, very well. So this is a schedule that, obviously the crossover opponents are the same. They don't always play those opponents at the same place as we do. But, yeah, I mean, I think a very formidable schedule for the Jets this season. And they get us Monday Night Football at home week 6, and then we go ahead again and we play there week 17, or play in Buffalo week 17. So tough schedule for the Jets, but there's a lot of people out there that are saying this is a playoff team. So are they a playoff team because they win the division, or are they a playoff team because they get a wild card? We'll find out.
Yeah, that's tough. What do you feel like their outlook is when you look at this team? I've lost my phone. What do you, as far as like, where do you stack them? So like I've seen predictions so far where the Bills don't make the playoffs and the Jets do. The Dolphins and the Jets do. I've seen predictions where the Dolphins make it and the Bills and Jets don't. I've seen it obviously where the Bills win the East. What are your feelings just kind of looking at their schedule and what they've done this year? Because to me, they're a dangerous team. You said it. They're dangerous. They're
dangerous, but the thing that I think matches up really well with this Jets schedule is they have a tremendous secondary. Okay. They got Sauce Gardner. They've done some things this offseason. They do get, I think his name is Clark, that they signed last season from, Chuck Clark. They signed last season from Baltimore. He had a season ending knee injury in camp. He comes back. He's projected as a starter at safety. They do have a tremendous secondary, and they play a lot of pass heavy type teams. For instance, week 9 in Houston, they'll get to see Diggs again, a team that's familiar with Diggs. Sauce Gardner is very familiar with him. The Niners, although they like to run the ball, they do have some formidable wide receivers. So this is a team, and then again, and of course Miami, I think they match up really well with their schedule because of the way their defense plays. As long as some of these rotational pieces that they signed in the offseason at defensive tackle come through, they got a chance. I do believe, as far as I like them to be in the playoffs maybe as equally or more than Miami, just because I always really kind of gravitate to the teams that play tough, hard-nosed defense, and they got it. I mean, they played Stroud last season. They held them to a season low 91 yards.
Yeah.
So they already know that team and had success against them. So I think they match up very well with their opponents.
Yeah, when we talked on Thursday night, you and I, they have, in my opinion, you agreed that they have the best, most complete roster in the AFC East. It's just a matter of, can they stay healthy? And they've always been snake bit. They just, as a team.
And then here's the other thing, Joe. They go out and they get Mike Williams. And since everybody likes to put numbers on people, this is a guy that, and you call Wilson wide receiver 1. Now you got a true blue wide receiver number 2.
Right.
So they have done a good job in the offseason. Again, the question mark will be, they did sign Tyrod Taylor as an insurance policy, but if Tyrod Taylor plays any meaningful snaps for a long period of time, I think you'll start seeing, I don't know what Jets fans will do.
I think you hit the nail on the I think you hit the nail on the head, Jerry. I think it's the two things. Will the Jets be the Jets, right? Because I agree with both of you. This is a great looking roster. Will the Jets just do Jets stuff and fail? Or the other thing is, what happens to Aaron Rodgers? I think those are really the two outliers right there.
Yeah,
for the Jets, but they look good on paper, man. But we always used to say this, right, Jerry? And I've never seen two teams get together and throw reams of paper at one another. It's just, I guess it's just not how the game is played. Look at our game plan, man. We have better clipboards than you do.
It's not like the old days where you put the players on, hit the button, and the magnet starts shaking, and they just kind of go all over the place.
You realize you just lost 3/4 or to like 5/6 of our audience right there. But I remember that game.
Like, what is that? What are they talking about?
I remember my uncle had that game. My uncle Jeff Miller, who was a Bills historian and author, and to this day, I'm like, I don't understand the point of this game.
There was no point. It was ridiculous.
Well, the point was you got to get the little paint out and paint the little men. You got all the generic colors, but then you got to paint your teams.
All right, Jerry. Fire, feet. Are you saying Bills win the East, followed by the Jets, followed by the Dolphins, followed by the Patriots? Is that what you're calling?
Well, every year at this time, everybody tells me why the Bills are not going to win the AFC East. And at the end of the season, the last so many years, the Bills have won the AFC East. So I like to quote pro wrestlers. I was a pro wrestling fan growing up, still am, and I say it all the time. The great Ric Flair always said, if you want to beat a man, you got to beat the man. And nobody's beat him yet. So I'm going with the Bills and let the Miami Dolphins and the Jets fight it out for number 2, or as far as that wild card goes. But again, other than the Patriots, and we'll see how they matriculate through the season. That's my crossword puzzle word for the day, matriculate. We'll see how if they get better or not. It should be a 3-team race.
Jerry, I had no idea you were a vocabulariist, but
yes, I am.
I'm going to transition over to the Miami Dolphins. All right. Jerry, you're finally in the know on that. So I looked it up, and I think, unless I got this wrong, the Miami Dolphins had the 6th hardest strength of schedule last year, right?
Yes.
This year, 24th. So I'm trying to riddle this through my brain. They finished 11-6 last year. Bills beat them in the playoffs. No, sorry, the Chiefs beat them in the playoffs. But as I look at what they did, they were horrible. They were 26th in passing touchdowns, giving up 20th in rushing touchdowns. They just seem to have an issue with getting stingy on defense at the right time, right? They didn't have any real significant wins beyond Dallas. I guess you could argue Tennessee and the Rams. I didn't see why the schedule was so challenging last year, but the biggest problem is they were 4-4 on the road. So I went through the stats a little bit. You want to make Tua the highest paid passer in the league, that's fine. You got all these brilliant weapons on offense. I go back, I look at this draft. How did they fortify defense? They lose Wilkins. They got Seiler. They retained Phillips. They got Chubb on defense. They have Jalen Ramsey. They added Anthony Walker in free agency. But beyond that, you look at the draft, they pick up Chop Robinson. I'm not sure a rookie edge or linebacker is that guy. And then they also pick up Muhammad Kamara, 5th round out of Colorado State, and a safety out of Cal, who, by the way, was a really good football player. In the 6th round, they pick him up. So I'm a little kind of, I'm scratching my head. They boat raced Denver out of the water. They don't seem to have any issues with producing yards and TDs until they come up against a team that can lock down Waddle and Tyreek Hill. A Chain and Mostert, very capable running backs. The running game doesn't complement well enough the passing game. So they ended up doing a little bit of what I call kind of gimmicky runs. They had a lot of kind of jet sweeps. So I'm I'm scratching my head. They're the 24th hardest schedule this year, but I don't see how they addressed their needs going forward. I don't think the Dolphins really got better in the draft or free agency. I think they kind of stayed the same. And I don't think that really bodes well for that kind of winning attitude that they need to go deep.
Right.
Well, here's the other thing about the defense, John. They got a first-time defense coordinator in Anthony Weaver. They got a brand new D coordinator as well. Yeah. So not only is the cupboard kind of bare, they got a new guy coming in with a new voice trying to teach new techniques and all that. So there's even more question marks on the defensive side in Miami.
Yeah, and you can actually add on top of that their 2 main pass rushers or edge guys are both injured. So you've got Jalen, what's his last name? Jalen Phillips, yeah, who I love as a player. But his Achilles tendon that snapped was vicious looking on the replay. Like when you saw him drive off of it, and it's like his whole calf goes doink. It's like that can't be good.
No,
so they're hurting on the edge, and they did not really address it.
Yeah, and you know what? I look at the strength of schedule thing, and I'm always kind of like, what does that really matter in the end, right? So. Look, they were 6th last year. They were 11-7 or 11-6, but I just didn't look at like the wins of consequence and the road wins.
Right.
I don't see, looking at this schedule, how it's so much more favorable. They did actually end up pretty nicely having just good spacing between their primetime games and the travel schedule. So they don't really have a run of 4 hard games in a row. The only thing I don't like for them, if I'm a Miami fan, is that bye week comes in week 6. And to me, that's just, it's too early. I want my bye week after 2/3 of the schedule is gone. It just gives you a chance to regroup and get moving forward. I would say the Bills win the division because I drink the Kool-Aid and I'm a Buffalo Bill. I think there's still a great chance. I think the Jets, and then Miami, and then the Patriots.
And you brought up a great point about the schedule and how it sets up. It's like the Jets schedule as well. Until after the bye week, they don't have the same week after week, one time in the first 11 weeks of the season. They've got short weeks. They got long travels. They've got Sunday night games, Monday night games, Thursday night games. They're all over the place. Not until after week 12 do they have, I believe it's 5 1 p.m. games in a row. So, that is one thing about the Jets schedule. After the Seahawks game on the 13th, well, really the Seahawks play them at home. After the Arizona game, week 10th, to correct myself, their longest road game is the Dolphins. So if you look at where their bye week sits and then the familiarity with schedules and where they're playing, they got short trips and they're all at 1 o'clock. So that end of the season does fit well for the Jets.
Yeah, the biggest thing that the Dolphins probably have going for them defensively against the Buffalo Bills is the signing of Jordan Poyer, who obviously has played against Josh Allen since Josh Allen got here and is going to be able to give them some tips here and there as far as that goes. The same Jordan Poyer who at the Micah Hyde charity softball event today said that he was there. Jordan played in the tournament today, or in the game today. And as he addressed Bills Mafia, he said that we have the best quarterback in the league. So that's gonna go over real well with Dolphins fans, I'm sure.
He just can't help himself, can he?
He just can't help himself. Josh Allen is one of those figures that how do you just not like that guy? Like he's just that dude that you just want to like him. I'm glad that Tom Brady was not Josh Allen because I probably would have fallen in love with him. It was easy to hate Tom Brady. But I think getting back to the Dolphins schedule, we kind of pulled out on Thursday, Jerry. And John, this is for you. Like there's an interesting thing inside their schedule as you dig into it, which is the Bills have a tough early schedule and then a little bit of an easier back of schedule. The Dolphins are easy early and then have a really tough back of schedule. And it's almost like the league is trying to set that drama up exactly the way that it's happened in the last couple of years where the Bills have gone on a tear at the end of the season. And there's almost like a hope, like it was good TV and like social media was great. Watching the Bills chase down the Dolphins from behind, down 3 games, like for the AFC East, chase them down and then take the East from them. I mean,
you say that, Joe, but ranked 24th in schedule. And as I look at it, I don't disagree with you. Green Bay, the Jets, Houston, San Francisco, Cleveland, New York, right? With half of those being away at Green Bay, at Houston. Sorry, 4 of the 6 away. But in somebody's eyes, that doesn't bring them even in the top 10 toughest schedules.
How many of the back 8 are playoff teams? You said Green Bay's a playoff
Cleveland's
team.
no joke.
Cleveland, Green Bay.
That's what I'm saying. But that's my point, Jerry, is I agree with you that the back end of their schedule, the last 6 or 8 games are really rough, but they're still the 24th ranked toughness in schedule.
Yeah. It's you wonder where that comes from, right?
Yeah, I'm curious how they do it. I mean, it's got to be a hell of a algorithm that they pump all the stats and the win losses in, and who knows how they add ads and deletions of roster.
Right.
But you want to talk about that? Look at the beginning of the Jets schedule. Okay, so you go Monday night in San Francisco. You're at Tennessee on a short week. Okay. Don't know what they're going to be about. Then your Thursday night at home versus New England. So your first home game is Thursday night, another short week. Then you got the Broncos at home. Then you got to fly across the pond to London. Then you come back for a Monday night game at home versus the Bills after going to Tottenham Hotspur. And then you've got Sunday night football the week after the Bills at Pittsburgh. And then you're at New England before, oh, yeah, by the way, here's another Thursday night game in that you got to play at Houston before then going to Arizona. I mean, their first 10 weeks Well, then you got to finish it off before the bye week, week 11, your Sunday night at home against Indianapolis. So your first 11 weeks are insane.
Yeah. It's getting to the Dolphins schedule. If you start at week 9, or I should say not the last 9 games, the ninth to last game, whatever, Rams playoff team, then the Raiders, right. Patriots, Packers playoff team, Jets, who knows what you're going to get if Aaron Rodgers is healthy. They could be a good football team. Houston playoff team, San Francisco 49ers runner up to the Super Bowl, Cleveland Browns playoff team, Jets again. I don't know, man. Like that doesn't sound like the 24th easiest schedule.
Right. I agree with you. I think interdivisionally we look at it that way, but somehow that's how it ends up. Well, and again, that's why I say bye week at week 6. I'd rather have it right there between 12 and 13.
But just remember, the NFL doesn't do any of this. They put this all into a computer and it just spits it out this way. They don't manipulate games at all.
Right.
How about the Patriots, Joe?
Yeah, go ahead, John. What were you going to say real quick before I jump?
No. I was about to do the same thing. Let's hear about let's hear about the New England Patriots.
So then this should be quick, like 30 seconds.
Damn.
Show over.
Shots fired.
So the New England Patriots, all anybody needs to know is that they're 2,400 to 1 to win the AFC East. That's probably we could probably end the show right there. 2,400 to 1 to win the AFC East. But in all seriousness, obviously we talked about it on Thursday that the Patriots new head coach Gerard Mayo, Bill Belichick, the evil emperor, is finally gone. The Patriots were not a good football team last year. They're not probably going to be a good football team this year. They obviously drafted Drake May, so they've got a new quarterback who has been compared, as all rookie quarterbacks are, to Josh Allen. And they did resign several of their own guys. This is a rebuilding franchise. But when you look at their schedule, week 1, you've got the Bengals. The Bengals are an interesting football team because they're that team that there's always the fight in my heart, which is why I was pausing right there, because you're chasing the Chiefs, and we're all about this. The Bills are better than everybody but the Chiefs. However, the Bengals and Zach Taylor seem to have the Bills number, and the Bengals are the team that beat the Chiefs in the playoffs to go to the Super Bowl. So the Bengals are an interesting football team week 1. They went 9-8 last year. A lot of that was because of Burrow and just being hurt. They went trenches in the draft. But Zach Taylor, to me, is one of the better head coaches, in my opinion, specifically offensively when it comes to scheming and planning and how he sets up teams. I love Zach Taylor as a head coach. And I was kind of like down on like the move from Marvin Harrison to him. I was like, who's this clown? If you remember the first couple of years, he wasn't very good as the head coach, but he's really got that team humming, and it helps when you've got Joe Burrow. John, were you going to say something? Or were you going to add something? I thought you put your hand up there real quick.
You want a little background on Zach Taylor?
Sure.
Zach Taylor from Norman, Oklahoma, which, Joe, I have to explain this to you. John already knows this. That's where the University of Oklahoma is, by the way. It's in Norman. Zach Taylor is married to Mike Sherman's daughter. So Mike Sherman of the NFL lore is his father-in-law, and his quarterbacks coach is one Brad Craigthorpe.
Oh, wow.
If you know the last name, his father, Steve Craigthorpe, was here with the coach to be named later.
Right.
Mr. Greg Williams, and was a quarterback's coach for him. So there's a little tie-in for you, a little 6 degrees of
interesting. There's a lot of intermixing and intermingling as it pertains to like inside the NFL ranks when you kind of get inside of it, which is funny. But so the Patriots go to Cincinnati, then the Seahawks come to them. It's a West Coast team. We talked about that going East Coast, 1:00 the next week. The Seahawks are, who knows what they're going to be this year, especially with them again having a new head coach with Pete Carroll being gone. Primetime game, their first primetime game is against the Jets in New York. I would fully expect the Jets they should manhandle them as far as that goes. Patriots then go to the 49ers for a 4:00 game, right? I mean, then they've got the Dolphins coming into town at that point. And we've gone through a lot of these teams already. As far as the Dolphins, we went through the 49ers on Thursday as well. Big test the week after that with the Texans going to New England. This Texans team, Super Bowl or bust, yeah?
Well, they're still young.
I was curious what makes you ask that, because I was going to say same thing Jerry said. I feel like
you got to wonder if DeMeco Ryans, second-year head coach, how much of what we saw last year with a rookie quarterback, a second-year head coach, is an aberration, right? At what point the wheels have to come off at some point, and then somebody's got to be able to put them back on, right? So they're gonna face challenges.
You say the wheels have got to come off, and I don't know why you believe that.
Well, because there's only one team.
We've won the division 4 years in a row now.
Yeah, but there was a fight to get. There was a fight to get there. There's only really one team in NFL history, in my opinion, that like new quarterback came in and then it was like to the moon, and that was the Tom Brady Patriots. Right. Like nobody could figure them out, and it was like, here we go, 8 Super Bowls, 9 Super Bowls, 6 championships, whatever it was, or 5. Like nobody's ever done it before. It's hard to believe that. It seems too good to be true, I think is the way I would say it.
Well, fair. I think there's a lot of factors. One, they're young. 2, Ryans is a second-year coach. I mean, and now the pressure's turned up, right? Yep, I mean, but last year he was the feel-good story. You got votes for coach of the year, all that stuff. And now there's pressure because they've gone out and gotten Stephon Diggs. Stroud played the way he played. And I told you the other day when we did the Bills schedule breakdown, obviously they're a good football team because – J.J. Watt is opportunistic as anyone, and he let it be known to everybody that he'd be willing to come out of retirement if they really needed him. Which I'd tell J.J. to go pound sand because he quit on him in Arizona. All of a sudden it's okay to be in Houston again because they're good,
right?
Which is an absolute joke. Go worry about your soccer franchise in England and stay retired. But I mean, there's a lot of pressure on the second year. The first year when you're flying under the radar, it's pretty easy. And
even to that point with the Bills, the Bills had to climb into that 2020 season where they kind of took over. The Bills in 2020 were still the hunter. And then in 2021, they were the hunted. Right. And that's so the Texans are going to begin to feel that pressure. But anyway, I didn't mean to hang us up there as far as that goes. But week 7, the Patriots then go to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville to me is a wild card game. They could give you elite level Super Bowl type performance and then all of a sudden fall flat and like turn into a bunch of nobodies and like a clown show and can't figure out why, like how this team is even put together. Home against the Jets. And again, we've talked about a lot of these teams already. The next team that we haven't talked about is actually after Tennessee. When they're at Tennessee, they go two road games in a row. They get a lot of 1:00 games, by the way. That Jacksonville game is in prime time. Not that we care too much about the Patriots, again, just because of who they are and what they're going to kind of do. By the way, 8th strength of schedule. You guys did strength of schedule for all of yours. 8th, tied for 8th strength of schedule. The Bears, week 10, they're in Chicago. Now, this is going to be an interesting game just because Matt Eberflus, right? Second year, I believe he's a second year or third year head coach, drafted Caleb Williams. Justin Fields is no longer on that football team. They were 7-10 last year, so they were not a good football team. They had that first opening day win in the rain. It was either against the Patriots or the 49ers, but they surprised everybody, I believe, last year with a win. But this is an interesting football game to me, just because not that it's a battle for last place. I don't want to say that necessarily, but there's two teams that are going to learn they're trying to figure out who they're going to be. And I think you guys could probably speak to that just from your history in the past, some of the teams that you've been on. It's like, okay, what is our identity and who are we going to find out? And we're going to find out a lot about that game. Do you guys have any thoughts on that Bears game at all?
Well, I do, because it revolves around Caleb Williams. I'm going to be really curious to see how he fits in Chicago.
Right.
Chicago is a tough blue-collar town. They love their Bears, and they're not afraid to criticize players when they do not play well. Caleb Williams has not been a player in college that has handled criticism or adversity very well. If you remember, he pouts on the bench. They got him with a towel over his head. I mean, Caleb Williams is I don't want to use the term soft because he plays in the NFL, and you got to be tough to play in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But as far as sensitive, I guess sensitive would be the term that I would go with. So it will be interesting as those growing pains happen, just how he handles the criticism from the fan base and the media in that town, because they are rabid about the Bears.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Jerry. And I'll add, having watched him a lot out here in the Pac-12, it seemed like when things were going well, Caleb was the guy. But when things got tight, he tended to fade a little bit. The zip came off his ball. His accuracy went down a little bit. I wasn't a huge fan of him until I heard him interviewed. I'm a fan of the guy. I'm concerned about him raising his game to the level of the NFL for a town like Chicago. And they can crucify you there. You think about other places like LA where you can just kind of disappear. They're not rabid football fans in LA.
Think about Jay Cutler when he was in Chicago.
Yeah,
that's all you need to know. It was brutal.
Yep. So then home against the Rams, which we talked about. They've got a tough schedule. There's actually commenters in the chat talking about like Patriots going 0-6 to start, 0-14 to start. There's not really a win. There could be a win here any given Sunday, right? You never know what's going to happen when teams match up against each other, but they're probably in that week 9, week 10 before there's truly a winnable game on their schedule if the Jets, in my opinion, stay healthy. Maybe week 2 against Seattle, but this is a team that's going to struggle. The bye week, it comes after week 13, so the NFL week 14. They got the Cardinals coming into town after that, and then they play Buffalo back not 2 times in 3 weeks, and then the Chargers, good old Jim Harbaugh, and the new look Chargers are coming into town. And by that point, you've got to think that team they're not going to be humming. They're in the process of not a full-on rebuild, not a soft retool like the Bills are, but they're in a full-on rebuild. And my guess is Jim is going to have them pretty ready for that.
He'll have them ready. For sure.
Yeah. So there's no conversation, in my opinion. The Patriots are going to bring up the bottom end of the AFC East, possibly the bottom end of the NFL. I think you'd be hard pressed to find some worse teams in the AFC in the conference. Outside of the Patriots next year. I'm not saying first overall pick, but they're going to be top 5 for sure.
So where do you put it? What's your order? Bills first? Are you a believer, or are you calling it Jets, Bills, Dolphins? Come on.
So where I land this year, and this is not going to make people happy, but for me, I feel like the Bills are in a process of finding out who they're going to be next, which is either going to be bang, we hit it, or we're going to have to take some steps to get there. I think this year, now stay with me, I think this year the Dolphins win the AFC East, but I think the Bills beat them in the playoffs, or at least go farther. I think the Bills make the playoffs. So I'm probably Dolphins, Bills, Jets, Patriots, provided the Jets stay healthy. Those two could flip-flop if Aaron Rodgers, again, doesn't stay healthy. But I don't see the Dolphins winning a playoff game. They just don't strike me as a team that can necessarily. There's just something about who they are as a team that they just can't get that. Very similar to the Bills getting the AFC Championship game, right? So as the pressure gets bigger, the Bills struggle a little bit more, whereas early in the playoffs, like they play some of their best football in the wild card week. The Buffalo Bills are one of the best teams I've ever seen play football in wild card Sunday. It's crazy.
Well, there we have it. Joe is the only dissenter. I think maybe Jerry and I just can't shake the fact that we played for the team. And, you go into every season with eye on the Super Bowl, right? So you always picking yourself to win your division first, win your conference second, and then go to the Super Bowl and win that damn thing too. So Joe's our outlier. I don't agree with them. I think if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, I still think the Jets finish above the Dolphins. I'm not sold on Tua. I just never have been.
That's my point.
Well, Vladimir says we own the fish. The Dolphins can win the AFC East and not beat the Bills. So
that's fair. This
doesn't change my opinion. Like,
I get
we own the Dolphins. We own
Joe, I hope you wear padded pants because that fence riding that you're doing right now is phenomenal.
At least
my Lord.
He's got a full-blown saddle.
I'm not saying they won't beat them. I'm just saying that
I can't win. Apparently,
what I'm saying really is this. What I'm saying.
At least I didn't just call the.
I think Tua's contract is going to be another form of pressure for him in Miami. I mean, it seems like every season he has something. We talked about the concussion deal, and now all of a sudden we're going to give him all this money. I'm a huge believer in human nature, and I just don't know. I think there's too many question marks around the guy, especially if you put a little bit of pressure on him.
I feel, but yes, 100%. I don't want to talk about the Bills as far as that, because the Bills do play them well as far as that goes. It's going to be interesting. Mike McDaniel has broken down this offense and put the perfect system in place for Tua, for that guy. We don't know what the addition of OBJ is going to mean. It might mean nothing, but they're still one of the fastest teams again, to John's point, on paper, not that they threw reams of paper at each other, very quickly throw reams of paper at you. But it's going to be interesting. Believe me, I want the Bills to win the AFC East, but we can't come on these shows and say that they're going to win the AFC East and they're going to win the Super Bowl and they're going to go undefeated. Like they have to. I mean, we have to have some reality, I would think, right?
Fair.
And that wraps up this episode of Ride the Fence with Joe Miller.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ride the Fence brought to you by Acme Fence Company.
What was the oh shoot, City Slickers, rolling. Oh, my ass is swollen. rolling. Oh, my ass is swollen.
Fence Rider.
Oh, well, it's about that time for us to get out of here. This has been a kind of a fun little exercise. This is all way too early. Like they haven't even hit training camp. They haven't even hit summer break yet. So the reality is true predictions and what's going to happen for any of these teams is going to come. Well, not the Patriots. The Patriots are coming in last. But besides them, like we're going to do real predictions. Somebody asked me earlier this week after our Thursday show, when of the real predictions coming? And I said, probably right before week 1. We'll do a prediction show for the Bills for everybody, like right before week 1 starts. But any final comments before I get us out of here?
I love it, man. I thought it was a great exercise. I'm glad to hear Joe is a non-believer, but by and large, I had a good time.
I have a final comment. Joe Miller wearing a Patriots jersey.
That's right.
That's why
is that why you set this whole thing up?
That's why I gave Joe Miller the Patriots right there. Because he's a closet Patriots fan.
The reality in this situation, context always matters. Don't make a bet with Jay Spence the King because you will lose. That dude should live in Las Vegas because I've placed like 4 bets with him and I've lost every single one. And that's why I had the Corey Bojorquez jersey. I had to buy a Corey Bojorquez jersey because I lost a bet to Jay Spence the King, which ended up becoming like super good luck. Like I still have it. So. Right. Like I think we went 8-0 in the boho jersey, so it was crazy. We've done it twice. I think we went 8-0 and 7-0 the 2 years that I put it on. Like we needed to streak, and we went on a streak. So both times, but that's good stuff. But ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuned into the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Show on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. My name is Joe Miller. That guy over there is Jerry Ostrowski. The guy underneath us is John Fina, and we are so excited that you have joined us. Please do us a favor. Please like. Please subscribe. But for me, for John, for Jerry, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.